My name is Sally, I'm 30 years old, and this is the story of my life, entangled in a web of deceit and betrayal, but more importantly, it is a story of resilience, a testament to how I broke free from manipulation, fought against injustice, and sought retribution against both my husband and mother-in-law. When I met Jackson, my husband, he was everything I thought I wanted: charming, charismatic, and full of sweet promises. Swept up in his affection, I fell deeply in love. We married quickly, believing love alone could conquer all, but I was naive. I never anticipated the storm that awaited me, nor that its source would be his mother, Thora. From the beginning, Thora resented me, viewing me as an unwelcome intruder in her son's life. She wasn't just possessive, she was obsessive. The kind of woman whose actions required deep psychological analysis to even begin to understand. For 6 years, Jackson funneled his entire salary to her, leaving us in a perpetual state of financial instability. I begged him to stop. I pleaded for him to prioritize our future, our home, our marriage, but he always dismissed me with the same cold response. My mother comes first. I was only 22 when we married, young, hopeful, and foolishly convinced that Jackson would eventually see reason. I now realize how delusional I was. Fear kept me silent for years. I let myself believe that love would change him, that love would protect me, but love had no power against the iron grip Thora had on her son. They were a package deal, arrogant, hot-headed, and, together, a force of pure destruction. As time passed, my clashes with Thora became unbearable. She belittled me at every turn, reminding me that I was nothing in her house. To her, my mere presence was a privilege, one she felt I didn't deserve. Whenever I turned to Jackson for support, he refused to acknowledge the abuse. His indifference was the final betrayal. If he couldn't stand up for me, he was no better than her. Then came the moment that shattered everything. Jackson lost his job, and on the very same day, Thora threw me out of the house without a second thought. "This house was never yours," she said, smirking. The words cut deep. I had lived there with Jackson for years, believing it was our home, but to Thora, I had never belonged. Desperate, I called my husband, hoping, foolishly, that this time, he would stand up for me. "Jackson, your mother kicked me out. I have nowhere to go." His response sent a chill through me. "Sally, if you keep talking about my mother like that, you can forget about my money and any sympathy from me. Stop with your delusions." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Jackson, I am your wife," I pleaded. "And you disrespected my mother. No wonder she threw you out." I felt the ground beneath me crumble. "Excuse me? You heard me. Pack up your things and leave. My mother's house is not your home anymore." For a moment, I wondered if I had stepped into an alternate reality, one where cruelty was love and betrayal was loyalty. But no, this was real. This was the man I had loved, revealing his true colors. When I returned to gather my belongings, Thora stood there, victorious. She didn't need to say a word. Her smug expression told me everything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to fight back, but I refused to give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Instead, I swallowed my anger, packed my bags, and walked away. But I wasn't defeated. I wasn't broken. I was enraged. Thora and Jackson had taken everything from me, but they would not go unpunished. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. "You can't let them get away with this," my friend insisted, her voice laced with urgency. She refused to let the injustice slide, pushing me to take action. Fueled by a mix of anger and newfound resolve, I found myself standing before Thora's house once more. My heart pounded in my chest, but I refused to let fear hold me back. I had been a victim for too long. Tonight, that would change. The moment I stepped inside, memories crashed over me. Every cruel remark, every manipulation, every sacrifice I had made in vain. This house had been my prison, but soon, it would be a symbol of my triumph. Thora's sharp gaze met mine. "What are you doing here, Sally? You have no right to be in my house." I met her glare without flinching. "Oh, I think you'll find that I do, Thora. Your actions led me here." Her lips curled in a mixture of surprise and annoyance. She had expected my silence, my surrender. She had underestimated me. "You think you can just waltz in here and take what isn't yours? You're nothing but a parasite," she spat. I let out a breath, steadying myself. "No, Thora, I'm no longer the woman you can manipulate. You used my husband's money to build this house, and now it's time for you to face the consequences." Thora's eyes narrowed. "You're delusional if you think you can outmaneuver me. I've been controlling people my entire life." I stepped closer, my voice unwavering. Manipulation may be your strength, but you made a mistake. You underestimated a woman with nothing left to lose. The air in the room was thick with tension. This was more than just an argument. It was a battle of wills, a reckoning. You may have won a few battles, Thora, but this war isn't over. I've endured years of your cruelty, but today, I take my life back. Your reign ends here. I turned on my heel and walked out, leaving her stunned in my wake. My heart hammered, but a sense of victory swelled within me. It wasn't the final blow, but it was a start. As I stepped off the porch, something caught my eye, a bright red auction sign being nailed onto the house. I froze. Was Thora selling the house, so soon? A sick feeling twisted in my gut. Given her history of shady dealings, this wasn't just a coincidence. She was up to something, and I needed to find out what. I rushed back to my friend, relaying what I had seen. She frowned. That's suspicious. You need to figure out your next move, and make it count. A quick investigation confirmed it. Thora was putting the house up for auction the next day. It wasn't just a sale. It was a cover-up. The realization hit me like a jolt of lightning. This was my moment, my chance to turn the tables and take back what was rightfully mine. That night, I devised a plan, researching every angle of the auction process. I calculated the highest bid I could afford and studied the market. If I played my cards right, I wouldn't just stop Thora, I would take her house right out from under her. The next morning, my pulse raced as I stepped into the auction hall, but before I could even take my seat, the familiar, grating voice of Thora stopped me in my tracks. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her tone dripping with disdain. I smirked. "I'm here for the auction." A collective gasp came from her and her daughter, Jenna. Jenna sneered. "You think you can actually afford this house? That's cute." She turned to Thora, whispering loudly, "Should I throw her out?" Thora shook her head. "No need. She's embarrassing herself just by being here." I held my ground, my confidence unwavering. "We'll see about that." As the auction began, the tension in the room was palpable. The auctioneer's voice rang out. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exceptional property on the market today. Let's start the bidding." I had done my homework, and I wasn't the only one who knew Thora's history. Before the first bid was even placed, whispers spread through the crowd, rumors of financial fraud, illegal dealings, and the skeletons in Thora's closet. Potential buyers hesitated, doubt crept in. "We have a bid of $310,000. Any higher offers?" the auctioneer called. Silence. Not a single paddle went up. Thora's face contorted in panic. "Why isn't anyone bidding? This is my house." I stepped forward, my voice calm but firm. "Not anymore, Thora." She had spent years stripping me of my power. Today, I was taking it back. And she never saw it coming. I locked eyes with her. "Looks like your secrets have finally caught up with you, Thora. No one's willing to pay more, not with the scandal hanging over this place." A smirk played on my lips. Thora's face flushed with fury as the reality sank in. She was losing control, just as she had spent years trying to control our lives. Panic flickered in her eyes, a vulnerability she had always buried beneath her manipulative facade. "Sally, we need to talk. This isn't right," Jackson pleaded, his voice thick with regret. I shook my head. "Save it, Jackson. You had 6 years to stand up for me, to fight for us. Now, I'm finally fighting for myself." I turned to Thora, my voice steady. "And as for you, keep your insults to yourself. Your reign ends here. This house will stand as a testament to my victory, a symbol that I refuse to be silenced any longer." I raised my paddle. The auctioneer called out the first bid, $420,000. Silence. He tried again. "All right, $310,000. Going once. Going twice. Sold." Just like that. A house worth over $1 million was mine for a fraction of the price. A stunned hush settled over the room. Disappointed attendees filtered toward the exits, their whispers swirling with speculation about the embezzlement accusations that had surfaced just before the auction. Thora's face twisted in a mix of disbelief and rage. Desperate to claw back control, she lashed out. "That house is worthless. You'll regret this," she spat. I met her glare, my voice calm and unwavering. "Don't concern yourself with my regrets, Thora. Worry about your own. I have plans for this house, and for my future. Regret is for those who've lost everything, like you." With that, I turned away, leaving her screaming and sobbing while Jackson struggled to console her. It was chaos, a storm of their own making, but for the first time in years, I felt free. Jackson tried to follow. "Sally, wait, where will we live?" His voice wavered. thick with fear. I looked at him, unshaken. You should be more worried about the legal trouble you're in. At this rate, both of you might end up in jail. Sally, please, we can fix this, he pleaded. I sighed, shaking my head. Too late, Jackson, the deed is done. Tell your mother anger isn't a good look on her. Behind me, Thora's screams continued, her reputation already unraveling. Any hopes she had of saving face were lost in the mess of her public breakdown. People had seen her for what she truly was, bitter, vindictive, and completely unhinged. With my head held high, I walked away, leaving behind the wreckage of my past. This wasn't just about revenge anymore, it was about reclaiming my life. Owning Thora's house was just the beginning. What had once been a place of humiliation became a symbol of my resilience. I poured my energy into something new, launching a small business crafting handmade crochet clothing. Word spread quickly, and soon, my designs were in demand. The community that had once watched in silence now stood behind me, supporting and celebrating my success. As my business flourished, so did my ambitions. I set my sights on real estate, acquiring more properties, including the dilapidated apartment where Thora and Jackson had been forced to live. Their fall from grace was complete. They were shunned, their influence erased. Jackson reached out now and then, always looking for an ounce of sympathy, but I remained unmoved. Jenna, too, watched in disbelief as her family crumbled under the weight of their own greed. If she had spoken up years ago, things might have been different, but she hadn't, and now she, too, bore the consequences. Then one day, Thora called. Her voice, once so commanding, was now small, broken. She had lost everything. She begged for help. I let out a slow breath. I never wanted revenge, Thora, I said. I wanted justice. I wanted my life back. And I had it. With the support of my community, my business thriving, and my future in my hands, I realized that true victory wasn't about watching them fall, it was about standing tall. I glanced at the properties I now owned, the life I had built from the ashes of their betrayal. Revenge had been the spark, but perseverance and resilience had carried me forward. The past had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. I was free. And that was the greatest triumph of all.